Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Steve Torsa. I'm the founder and managing director of Wholesale Investor. I'll just put my earphones in. Okay, so thank you so much to everyone for joining this session. Obviously, very excited to be hosting it, number one. This is a pretty pivotal time for us as a company. And, in hosting this session, this is, look, to be blunt, this is something we've been working towards for 12 months now. But more than that, this milestone that we've crossed sets up for a far greater opportunity for, obviously selfishly, for us as a company, but more importantly for the companies that we work with and also the investors in our ecosystem. And, when I think about what I'm going to be sort of covering today, and I think about all the different milestones that we've sort of crossed in building this, it makes me excited to think where this can go over the next sort of 2 to 3 to 5 years, because effectively, when you see some of the way we've been thinking things through, you'll understand that, effectively what we've built now from a perspective of Wholesale Investor / Crisp is game changing. And I always explain to people that there's two different ways that people know Wholesale Investor. One is if you've know us before COVID. Effectively, a lot of people know us as a company that did a lot of events and then built software, the software in Crisp. And if you know us sort of during COVID and afterwards, you would know us from the building of the Crisp software. And then also we do host a couple of events per year. So, but what's really important is everything we've been working towards is to become actually a software-driven business, but also a product-led business. And that really sets up for the conversation today. So I'll give you a bit of an agenda. First part is I'm going to go through, the background of Wholesale Investor, because it does provide context as to, what basically the importance of the feature release for us. I'll be going through some of the limitations we faced as a business, because I think that's really important to understand, because that also forms some of the foundations as well. And then also the last one is that why is Crisp now unique globally? And I'll go through some key points that most people wouldn't actually think about. But when you do a deep dive across the global ecosystem, I said what we are now offering is a world-class solution, which the elements of the feature, the elements that we have from a product perspective and the benefits they have to, I said, founders, fund managers, advisors, investors, etc., really is quite exceptional. And said, and then the last part I'll do is I'll do a bit of a demonstration of what we've actually built on the software, and then different ways and then I'll provide different ways in which you can actually engage with us going forward. So let me get into the presentation. And by the way, welcome everyone that's still joining on for the session. Really happy to have you come along. Always keen to know where's everyone actually joining from for this session. Do we have anyone coming in internationally? Are we joining from Sydney, from Melbourne, from Brisbane? Just put in the chat box where you're actually joining from while I pull up my presentation. Perth, welcome Josh. Central Coast, Istanbul, fantastic. Always love some international flavor coming into the session. India, fantastic. Okay, let's set this up. Now, I might have missed some whilst I'm setting this up. Okay, India, Melbourne, fantastic. Drizzly Melbourne, that's been pretty much my experience every time I've gone there this year, Jeremy. Okay, so I said as part of this, there's going to be a couple of different elements I'm going to go through as part of this session. And hopefully, my goal is I want to really articulate how significant this is, because and I'll go through our background, but effectively to understand the importance, and I said it will build to what we're actually releasing as part of our features. Welcome, Dennis from Auckland. So firstly, Wholesale Investor, our vision is about creating opportunities for tomorrow. Every single thing we do every single day of the week is about creating an opportunity that doesn't exist, right? And that is what I love about what it's also the hardest thing to do. Right, we know that we work in one of the hardest spaces available, and we've managed to build a business in this area that is quite unique, right? But every single thing we do, this session, every event we host, every email we send, every product feature we add is about creating something which doesn't exist today. Welcome from Melbourne. Okay, so that is the first part to really understand. Now, to give you a bit of context of our history, we launched the business as a magazine in 2008. You can see some of the early magazine covers. And it's always funny for me to see that, because you can see the companies that may have sort of disappeared in that time, but also some of the ones that have gone on to become unicorns, and actually still some that are actually still our clients today, which is always unique to say. But for the first 4 years of our life, we spent our time as a magazine. And then in 2012, I could see the end of days for the magazine. And we had to figure out what was going to be the next version of WI, because the whole idea is how do we actually bring together high net worth investors, family offices, professional investors, and then on one side, and then curate opportunities for them on the other side. And at that time, then we started hosting live and in-person events. And that was sort of wrapped from 2012 on. So we did host some ones before that, but it became more of a priority from 2012, because it was sort of became a call to action. Welcome from Adelaide, Maureen. And so in 2012, we started hosting events, and we got to a point that in 2018, we did 48 showcase events across 7 different countries. That year, I almost killed myself. And I remember getting to the end of that year completely burnt out and thinking to myself that, I've got to do something differently, because I love the space. I love the energy it brings. I love dealing with the founders. I love the people I get to meet. I love the networks I get to create. It's crazy for me that I count some international investors, or VC, then family offices as friends, in my network. And that still surprises me to today. But I got to that point and I realized, do you know what? I said, the challenge with this is, I said, I'm not scalable, me personally. And I said, what I had in mind for what I wanted to build from a software perspective had to be quite unique, but also it had to be utility for the actual global ecosystem of companies and investors. And that's sort of where I started with my own thinking. Now, initially, I knew that it was going to be relevant for our own clients, but obviously I always had much bigger vision for that. So in mid-2019, we actually launched the first version of Crisp. I probably look back at it now and think it's embarrassing compared to where the actual software is at now. But, that's always the process in actually building products. And so that was a key milestone for us when we actually launched the platform, because it really set the direction that we were going to be a software-led business in what we were going to build. So that's been our focus sort of from 2019. Now, our transformation, just to give you some perspective, is that if you look at that sort of 2018, 2019, and then obviously 2020 comes along and COVID means that we can't do any events. We're sort of looking at our business and, communicate to our team. This is about sort of 18 months ago, where we sat down and thought, what is the limitations of our business? Because we could grow the business, but there was some massive limitations. In number one, it was sort of centered around live and in-person events. Number two, we have to curate all the different emails that get sent out to the ecosystem, which means there can be sometimes no personalization or intelligence involved sort of in that process. And then the third one is that our clients have to be reactive in the sense that they have to wait for someone to register interest in their investment opportunity, and then they get the details to actually then go and connect. Right. And there's a lot of manual sort of back and forth in that. It was actually even greater than that. We had a lot of inefficiency in the business, and we had 3 different sites that we had to populate, and, we had to use other people's conference software and all that sort of stuff. So basically we had all those different business limitations. So what we set about, 18 months ago was to create our own exponential opportunity and to go through that transition process of doing that. So the first one is that obviously we knew that to go from events led to being events focused, we knew we had to become software driven. So effectively become product led from a business perspective, right? And the second part that we knew was that effectively the automation of emails and making sure that every email that goes out is actually relevant. So you'll see this, it's actually been done from our side, and you'll actually see this post emergence, where basically the emails that will come out will actually come out from Crisp. They'll be branded sort of WI Crisp, but effectively it'll be almost like personalized deal flow coming out based on a couple of different things around the preferences, and also we'll then integrate into the AI ML as well over time. But it's really important for us, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to improve the relevancy of communications which go out, right? And then also do it in such a way where it's over a period of time as well. So that's basically helps with the visibility of our clients, but also the familiarity from your perspective as investors, in engaging with the companies that are actually presenting. So that's the second part. So the first part, as I said, being software driven. Second part, basically automation of the emails which go through the platform. The third part is also, super important in that effectively our companies are able to be proactive inside the platform, right? Because as I said, one of the challenges is they have to be reactive. So when someone expresses interest, then they can communicate. Now, what's really important is the ability where companies can proactively connect with investors, and then investors have the opportunity whether to accept or not accept that connection. Or likewise, if a company thinks about their potential in the UK, they can actually have got investors which they can see inside the platform, which they can proactively reach out to and connect with to engage with. So that's how we thought about how we actually go from our business limitations to our exponential opportunity. And in doing that, just to give you some context, we've got a 14-year track record. We've had 10 of our clients become unicorns, and we've had over 70 exits from our client base that have either gone through M&A or gone through IPO. So it's important to understand there's a significant track record behind this. So not only have we been doing it for 14 years, not only have we had 3 different pivots as part of that process, so it's going from magazine to events and then now to being software builders, we've been fortunate enough to have some good success with our clients along the way. And if you have a look at the companies that are participating in Emergence, we have an incredible lineup of companies that are actually participating in the actual conference. Now, our mission as a company is empowering innovation, capital, and ambition. So if you think about our vision and if you think about our mission, I said it really does set the foundation for what I'm going to show you as far as what we're actually building. The last part to that is basically creating the global opportunity as well. So it's not just about Australia, it's not just about Singapore, et cetera, or not just about the UK. It's about creating a global opportunity. And so the combination of CRISP and Wholesale Investor, where we get to today is we have actually built a world-class solution to a global problem that is massive. And when I say that, the challenge, when you think about capital raising, literally every single company I meet is that it gets frustrated by the capital raising process. Rarely, I said, I can count on one hand the amount of people that have actually said that they love the capital raising process. But it's one of those gray areas where there's lots of different frustrations and problems with it, right? But people just put up with it because it's a necessity in business. And so we've really tried to think to ourselves, how can we actually reimagine what capital raising could look like going forward in the future? And then also, as I said, build a world-class solution for that to solve what actually is a global problem. And then ultimately, the solution that we provide is how do we think about capital raising in venture investment in a way that is streamlined and simplified for both parties? Because whether you're a company that's raising capital on one side, or if you're an investor, listening to this session on the other side, you realize that majority of the way this ecosystem works is everything is quite ad hoc. It's people shooting around IMs, it's people sending out IMs on LinkedIn. It's the random connection. Information comes in various different ways. Communications gets lost. And there's always new stuff that's sort of coming at you. And that's typically how this space actually operates. So we sort of thought to ourselves, how do we actually build something which is streamlined and simplified all the way through? And then also with our software, we made the mistake when we first built our software, basically a lot of people just thought about our software from the perspective of investors that would actually come from our ecosystem, the way we think about our software is we've built it in such a way that it can empower companies in their capital engagement or their investor engagements with, current shareholders, board members, potential investors, future potential investors, and also high value strategic partners, right? The information structure is in such a way that allows companies to be effectively in an always on state, in an always on communication area, where if you think about, previously, most companies, they send out some information every quarter about a company, and that's pretty much about it. Whereas what we encourage with the companies that we worked with, we encourage monthly communications. We encourage, monthly publishing of news and announcements. We encourage active engagement, across a period of time, because what we understand about this space is it takes time for people to get comfortable with a business. It takes time to get comfortable with the way in which the founders execute on the business, etc. And so all these things sort of go, all these things we've actually worked towards to actually solve from a challenge perspective. And then the outcomes for the companies, right, is that, and this obviously works very well for the investors as well, is that we want to help the actual founders themselves save time, right? So for example, if a founder is going to be, in conversations with, investors for between 5 to 10 hours, how can they streamline their process so their actual conversations, could be a lot less, could be 1/5 of that as an example, but an investor gets all the information that they need, to either make a decision on an opportunity. So saving time is a big one, reducing opportunity cost. All of you will know that when a founder goes into a capital raising, there's an opportunity cost that comes with that because of the sheer time that they end up spending on it. And also it can end up being a distraction as well, because there's a lot of different, whether it be information gathering or providing of information, there's always different things, which basically come up when going through this process, and, effectively ends up as a distraction often for the CEO. Like I remember, when I was going through the transaction with Investec, I remember there was just days and weeks on end where I was just locking myself in the office, going back and forth on different phone calls and back and forth on different emails. And, you basically end up massively distracted from your own team, and that ends up with challenges internally, right? And then next one is access investors, which is always an important part. In fact, literally since day one, people have came to us for that sheer ability to be able to access investors, right? But that's obviously something that we want to provide as something that sits inside of our product. And then the last part is receive intelligence. Because effectively, I realized, going back, to the end of 2018, I remember coming out of a meeting with a VC, and I remember saying to myself, thinking, I have no idea what an investor is interested in my business. And that's crazy to think for me that at that time, I'd actually been promoting companies on a capital raising for 10 years, right? So these are the outcomes and benefits which we're looking to provide for companies in the way in which we think about building of our software. And so I made the statement at the start of this session, that what we've built is now world-class. And so you may be asking yourself, so why is it actually world-class? Why is it unique globally? And there's 5 key factors which now differentiate what we built. And two of those factors, are actually things that I'm going to show you as part of this feature launch tonight, or this afternoon, I should say. So the first one is intelligent deal rooms. I remember in the early days, people try and compare us to data room providers. I was like, I've got zero interest in actually being a data room. What I wanted was intelligent deal rooms, which actually provided engagement. Because from our perspective, just access to data is no longer enough. I said, when we do a lot of work with, high net worths and family offices. And what's important about that is most people think about how to target VCs. Well, I'm well aware that, VCs will only invest into 1 in 100 companies or 1 in 200 companies. And the reality is those other 99 companies are most likely to be invested into by high net worths and also family office, or even just investment groups that don't classify themselves as VCs and are not looking for any media exposure whatsoever, or the others where they're sort of advisory/investment groups. So, the reality is we knew that the intelligent deal room was important to provide investors the opportunity to engage over the short, medium, and long term with potential investment opportunities. And that goes far beyond just access to data. And that's what I say to people. I said, if you just want data room, I said, there's places like Enserata, as an example, to go be a data room. I said, for me, I wanted intelligent deal rooms that actually provide, I suppose, engagement with investors. And that's always been the core of the focus. The next part was a significant milestone that we crossed mid last year. And this was integrated conference software. This entire ecosystem has been built off the back of demo days, showcase events, conferences. As I said, we ran 48 ourselves in 1 year. It still gives me, cringe when I think of that. And, basically we wanted to, and I'll show you what the conference software looks like, so I won't spend too much time on this, but to be able to provide people with the ability to network inside the conference software is important. Now, look, we tried Brella, we tried Hopin, we tried all sorts of different conferences, and nothing did what we really wanted to do, and we weren't really asking for that much. But basically, we knew we wanted to build something that was purpose-built for this ecosystem and seamlessly integrated. So the integrated conference software launch for us mid last year, was a massive milestone, and you will see why in a second. This is a big milestone which we're crossing, and this is part of what I'm going to be showing today as part of our feature release, and that is global investor access. We have now got an API integration into the platform where our clients can access over 200,000 investor profiles globally of VC, PE, fund managers, family offices, and angel investors directly from the platform with filtering mechanisms and also with basically utilizing our AI ML structure as well as part of that, but obviously starting with the preference part. But this is such a massive release for us because effectively what it means is that for every company that we're working with, if they want to go and be proactive in the UK, as I said, they can target UK investors directly from the platform. If they want to reach out to investors in Singapore, reach out to investors in the US, they want to reach out to specific angel investors, they can now basically get those profiles directly in the platform and then go through their own mechanism to contact and reach out. And this is such an important milestone because, as I said, everything that we think about is creating opportunities for tomorrow, and everything we've thought about from day one is a global opportunity. With this integration also means that we can create new products as well for the global marketplace, which is obviously something which we're in motion in doing. Now, the next part for us is our own proprietary investor ecosystem, which is, we've built through absolute sheer hard work for the last 14 years, and being able to build that database, which has obviously our own investor networks, deal makers, and also relevant industry as well. As I said, what makes WI unique is we have a rare three-sided ecosystem: founders, investors, and also industry. Sometimes people are wearing all three hats in that actual process. But to me, building that's always been our most valuable point about WI. Now you can understand and start to see that these other valuable points can sometimes even go far and beyond that, because our own investor database is one part, but the ability for companies to proactively reach out globally just becomes so paramount, to what becomes a global opportunity. And this part is, to me, something which is, from what I've seen so far, is a world first, in that the ability for two-way AI ML matchmaking. And I'll show you this on the actual demonstration, where investors can see the most relevant deals for them, and then companies can also see the most relevant investors for them. And by the way, if someone else has seen this on some other platform, so there's only one or two other platforms that I've seen that actually use AI, right, for the matchmaking, but to actually have it two-way, I haven't seen, and I said it makes us quite unique. But if you add all those 5 different elements together, as I said, we've actually set ourselves apart from a platform perspective and set ourselves up for a global opportunity which previously wasn't available to us. Now, to understand the 3 fundamental principles which we actually build, and I said I'll get onto the demo in a second, but basically we build software to let the ecosystem do what it naturally does, right? Secondly, we build a global scalable solution, right, via software. And the last one is, all we think about is how can we actually remove friction from the process, right? At the same time, creating that global opportunity for both founders and investors. They are the 3 fundamental principles that we've thought of in the actual building of the actual software. The first one is the most important, and that's why, once again, this is such a significant milestone for us as a company. So now, notice how I've got an important slide for myself to do a demonstration at this point. So just give me 1 second. All right, does that make sense to everyone so far? What I've covered in the launch. I know for some of you, the entire thing may be new, right? Okay, so let's go through the actual demonstration. So I've got a couple of different slides open, right? So yeah, thanks, Jeremy. Appreciate it. So the first thing I'm going to take you through is basically the high-level stuff. I'm going to take a demonstration of the platform now, and then I'll take you through the new features. So the first part is this recommended for you? This is a combination of the preferences and also the AI ML. So when an investor comes onto the platform, first thing they do is they fill out their investor details. They put in their areas of interest. They put it, and notice I got Peter up here. I was watching his interview earlier. By the way, Peter, great presentation if you're on this session tonight, right? But effectively, you've got a bit about the investor profile, and we ask some really simple questions. You can see how that leads up to in the process. Now, once again, I can see Mizio up here, Jeremy. Effectively, these are what comes through from the AI and the ML as far as how I've engaged with the platform. It then provides me with recommended opportunities for me. So everyone has their own personalized deal flow experience. That's super important, right? That's from the actual deal discovery part. And there's a whole bunch of different filters that I can go through if I want to go and access different things. So if I want to add fintech, AI, etc., it's all easy for me to do. Likewise, if I want to add, fintech in here as well, then also I can do that, and it goes and searches for fintech opportunities. So that's from the investor's perspective. Now I'll go from the company's perspective. I'll show my favorite room that I love to show. I always like showing the Surf Lakes room. So just showing this from an investor's perspective, I think it's really important to see some of the marketing principles we've used to actually build the software is attention, interest, desire, action. See, from investors' perspective, you guys get pitched opportunities all the time, but people just always give you the high level information, the pitch deck. The reason this feed highlight is so important, and obviously even the corporate videos, it can help you understand a business within minutes. But we also very well aware this entire space is basically borderline ADHD or clinically diagnosed with ADHD. So we know that you want to get to what is the most recent sort of activities or milestones that the company has achieved, right? Because then you if you discover an opportunity, then you can understand what their execution pace or capacity is like. Then obviously there's the ability for documents. As I said, we never really position ourselves as a data room, but part of this process is that you need access to information in part of it. And just so you know, the way you can actually see it is typically, a company can fill out this entire process at the same time is that it can actually have, some really just simple information, and companies can have multiple rooms as well. Now, the Q&A is also important. You can see the most frequently asked questions. Now, from the company's perspective, this is auto-sorted in such a way that the questions that are clicked on the most are the ones that actually basically rise to the top. So in the back end, a company can see what is the most, they actually start getting intelligence about what is important to investors in their deal room. And then also on this next part, then they can have a conversation, right? So this is also important because having real-time communications, everything can be centralized from the deal perspective. This is to the point that I said, this is why it's important that it's positioned as intelligent deal rooms. Now, the way the news is done, as you can see, it's all auto-sorted. From a company's perspective, this is so simple about how they actually edit this. They literally just do open, copy, paste, get info, and then it extracts the info directly for them. And then all they have to do, and they can even backdate. So when a new company joins Wholesale Investor, they can actually backdate all their info, backdate a lot of their execution milestones, right? And then also, and obviously keep up to date with new stuff. But most importantly, it takes seconds for founders to actually do that, right? So that's that part. And then obviously sharing is quite simple. Literally just access, you get a shareable link. So it's all permission-based, all privacy-driven, etc. Now, I appreciate there's both advisors, investors, etc., that are all on here. That's all important to understand. But I said I'm just giving context from what the deal room is like and how it's actually set up. All right, and then obviously there's different notifications and so forth. So that's on the deal room part. And also, as mentioned, the companies can do their investor relations through here as well. And they tend to have very high engagement rate when they're actually doing it directly from the platform. So that's what it looks like actually inside the platform. And I can know that you would imagine that it allows the companies to create such a better engagement experience with their potential investors or with their shareholders than what is the current setup where I said just communication every 3 months. Right. I said it means that an investor at 24/7 can go and just have a quick check-in on their company and see what they're up to and where they're at. All right. So that's that part. Now, the other part that I mentioned to you that was really important was the actual conference software. Now, as I mentioned to you, we had to purpose build something because we were super frustrated with what we were actually experiencing using other software. This is our Emergence Global Conference. This is what's going on right now. You can see Peter was actually one that was presenting today, right? And effectively, all this is really simple from a marketing perspective in the way it's done. They can register on here, they add it to their calendar, etc. Now, when we actually go in here, I want to show you what we did in our London event. I'll use our Singapore one as an example. So with our Singapore event, right? So effectively, you can see here is the actual conference. That's actually me doing a presentation. all the companies that are participating are actually integrated into the actual software itself. The agenda is perfectly done here as well. And where the presentation at is covered here. It's all the small stuff that makes a difference. This is the part that people love. The ability to come in here and actually network with the other attendees during the actual conference, right? So when the conference is live, this actually has got a connect button, and then they can filter and basically say, okay, do they just want lead investors? They happy just, don't really matter. They're happy for all. Do they want to target family offices, VCs, etc.? And then likewise with all the different keywords, if you want to add fintech, AI, obviously that's relevant to me. So that's what I think about. All that's super relevant for in this actual setup. But the most important thing is it's the first layer of how a company can be proactive during a conference, but likewise, how an investor can be proactive as well, because you can actually favorite deals, which you want to follow, and then likewise chase them back up at any time. But you can see all the opportunities and they're all integrated into the actual platform, right? And the idea is that every investor has a similar experience when they're looking at opportunities, right? Once again, you see the announcement, see milestones, problem, solution. All this is what you would expect to see in a typical pitch deck. And then obviously you got the opportunity to engage and obviously invest directly into the company. So that's the conference software part. This is the one we've got going on at the moment, the Emergence Global one that I was telling you about. You see how you've got the capacity to connect, right? Likewise, if you click on their profile, then you've got the opportunity to actually view them as well. Now, what's important about this is basically we've now got this beautiful data set that actually sits behind the software of our own subscribers, as well as an integration, which I'm going to show you in a second, right? So this part I'm about to show you, it said, this is what we worked towards for the last 12 months. So the conference software, we went from start to finish within 6 months, and you can see it's incredible, right? And from a user experience, if you've been to one of our events, it is seamless, right? Probably do need to do a little bit of work on the mobile sort of design, but we do get great compliments from people that actually use it for actually at events and on their phone as well. But obviously you're always thinking about different ways to improve. This part is the game changer. This prospects field, what this has is two important elements. It has the API. So we've done an API integration with Crunchbase. And as I said, we've added over 200,000 investor profiles into the platform directly. So see how it's got this logo on here? These are the Crunchbase investor profiles, right? Now, what this means is and these are basically the recommendations that are coming from the company. So for example, actually I'll use Christian, right? So Christian's actually someone I know, and actually someone that I've actually, he's an Australian that's done incredibly well in the UK. So if you look at Christian's profile, it's got a beautiful data set as far as, what his investment details, what his different investments are, the jobs and positions that he's currently in, and also contact details as well. Now, the important part about that, as I said, is providing all the details for a company right up front about who they are, what they're looking at, etc. Right? But also more importantly for me, if I'm looking to go to the UK, I can see all the combination of, right? And by the way, when I see the different investor profiles, I'll show you one in particular. So the person that actually helped us in actually building the software is Dan Berrican, and he's actually a shareholder in Wholesale Investor. So what you're seeing here is the combination of the Crunchbase integration, right, and being recommended, and also the second part of our AI ML matchmaking. So this is where me as a founder, I can see the most relevant investors for my business. So if I'm scrolling down and then I see Dan's profile, I can get some information about Dan. I can see, is he willing to, obviously he's willing to lead, his profile, countries he's interested in, and obviously all the different sectors he's interested in as well. I said the important thing is him and the Fastlane team, they're the ones that actually did all the technical work for us on the AI ML side. And said for any founders here that are having any sort of any strong technical issues, I highly recommend the Fastlane team. But also there were small things like which events they attended. I won't put in the contact details because you can actually see his contact details on there. But once again, now what I can do is I can press this connect button, right? So I can press connect, and then I can go from here, and then I can open up a chat. Now that's because I'm already connected to Dan. Now, if I'm not connected to Dan, so let's say I pick Brian as an example. I put Brian, let me pick someone else. say Mark, right? I'll pick Mark as an example. If I want to connect with Mark, right? Obviously, I've got different rooms. I go through here and we've copied the exact same. Basically, our thinking was how to copy a similar structure, which on the UI UX side, effectively are able to basically be going in here. And then effectively, there's just a simple connection request and then away it actually goes. Now, this is important for us. Now, this is, as I said, when it's got the Crisp logo, they're our subscribers. When it's got the Crunchbase profile, they're actually part of the Crunchbase network. So we clearly identified that, and it's part of someone's asked about, do the Crunchbase investors know that they're on the platform? Absolutely. It's an API integration that we've done with Crunchbase, and that's why we actually identify that the information is provided by Crunchbase, just to be clear. Right now, of course, as a company, we're also going to be looking to add additional data sources as well. But the important part from our side is that I just want to be able to provide software which a company can be which founders can be proactive in actually reaching out to potential investors. Now, just to add that to another level, right? I just want to show you an example. I did this earlier where I did FinTech and UK. So for me as a founder, if I'm looking at going over to the UK, effectively what I can do is I can literally just basically put in FinTech UK and then actually start proactively reaching out to some of these angel investors, right? Or alternatively, what I can do is I can actually reach out, and I'll show you this in a second. I can actually reach out to the different investment groups as well, right? So similar thing, whether it be the different angel investors, right? Or our specific database, or if I want to go out to different FinTech groups, as I said, as an example, effectively apply the filter, and then it provides me with all the relevant VCs and investment groups globally that are interested in that have basically been investing into FinTech. And obviously it provides me with all the different details. And said, as you go into that, you can break it down to all the different people involved, etc. And then away you go from communication standpoint. So as I said, everything we've tried to think through is how we can make this a simple UI UX experience so that not only people can be proactive in communicating, but also be able to get access to information and data as well. And then, so that's on the prospect search part. So I hope that sort of makes sense to that. So that's been a massive breakthrough for us, because if you can imagine just going back to, the initial clearing, the fact that companies can see the most relevant investors for them is game changing for us from a product perspective. Said, I want to empower companies in their proactive communications. So that's all on the surface part. Now, what people don't know is behind the scenes on the admin side, we've actually built our own events dashboard that sits in behind the platform. So that Singapore event that I was showing you previously, all of that is actually managed through here, right? The creation, the management of the event, the exhibitors. I said, all this is perfectly integrated with the actual software as actually part of that process, right? Likewise, the agenda, the presenters, the tickets, etc. All that is actually managed through here. And what most people don't know is our actual wholesale investor website. So when you go onto it, you see browse investment opportunities. So you can see the different opportunities on here. Looks like I'm in admin mode. Effectively, all these different details where you see trending, UK, most viewed, climate tech, technology, this all comes from our back end, right? So this all comes from here, because we knew that when we were building the wholesale investor website, we wanted to be the first version of what a white label could actually potentially look like. So down the track, when white labels become relevant from us from a development perspective, we've already got a version that's done and it's our site. And you can see it's actually built through here. Likewise with the UK, you just create manage queries, and then it all gets done through here, and it's very simple to change and modify, etc., as actually part of the process. So, that's some other cool stuff. I said, not only am I proud of the front end aspect that we've actually built, but also the behind the scenes aspect as well. So that's it from a demonstration standpoint. As I said, I hope people understand how important this feature release is for us, because, as I said, it is game changing now what we can actually do. So we now are going to be able to release a global software version of our product. We'll also be able to release a pure software version of our software as well, where companies can actually subscribe to the software only as part of it. And also we will, down the track, we're looking sort of May, June to have an investor product as well. So I'm just going to stop sharing for a second. Is there any questions anyone has on the software side? Someone said, can you add information from LinkedIn? Yeah, typically you can actually add in a LinkedIn profile from that. We haven't got anything for scraping LinkedIn information sort of in there, but yeah, people can add, basically when they sign up, they can utilize their LinkedIn as part of it. And that is helpful from a details perspective. Any other questions? Okay, so I'm just going to go on to the next part of my. So what I want to do for today as part of this actual launch, as I did actually want to have a special offer for people. Oh, sorry, I did see the Q&A. I have never, someone asked, how does Crisp differ from Gust? I've actually never used Gust, and I haven't seen anyone, I haven't heard anyone use it for a long time, to be blunt. Does this platform allow to connect with potential customers if not looking for investment, as an example? So down the track, there will be a variation of that. I said, if you're thinking about customers being investors or customers being companies, typically we, said industry is a part of what we do, but obviously typically, we want to encourage a way in which it's done in that it doesn't upset the companies that we're actually working with, etc. Oh, then someone said, ignore the Gust question. All right. And then I've got Penelope's asked, with so much personal information, how secure is it? So as far as, I'm probably not the best person to answer the technical part, but everything we've built is actually on Google Cloud. So you'll see that we've actually got Google as a speaker at our upcoming Emergence event. But effectively in doing the architecture and the structure of it, everything we've thought about is from a security, from a privacy perspective, and from in such a way, not only to do that, but do it in such a way where people can do whatever they want to do naturally. So if they want to remain private, they can, but also to engage, they also can as well, but also be proactive in that engagement. Okay, so you could. Someone asked, why wouldn't I just use Crunchbase to access those investors? So absolutely, someone can actually do that. The uniqueness of how I've done it is basically utilizing some of our matchmaking skill as actually part of that, and also the alignment of the actual filter structure as part of it. And then the other part to it is Crunchbase obviously don't have our investor network. So to be clear, if you actually go and look into and this is very obvious for anyone that's in this space, if you look at the Airtree open source list of investors, or if you look at Crunchbase list of investors, it really doesn't have more than sort of 500, 600 profiles. It's actually quite weak from the Australian perspective, but globally, there's a lot of good data for investment groups to reach out to. The power is actually the combination of the two. So the power is in our actual own database itself, right? Our actual own proprietary database, and then also the Crunchbase data as well. And as I said, the Crunchbase data for us, the integration is just a starting point. We will look to add additional data sources to it, because everything we're focused on is how to create an international opportunity for our clients. And if you think about it, most Australian companies have achieved their success when they've actually been able to proactively attract international investors onto their register. So I said, we just want to try and make that as simple as possible for companies to actually do that. All right. So basically, as part of our special launch offer, basically there's two things I'm going to sort of talk about, or actually three things. One, so we do have for the founders that are actually on the call today. So there's two things. One, we do have a special launch offer for companies that are actually currently going through a capital raise or thinking about a capital raise. We are going to make available at a special price, for the next sort of basically till the end of next week, a special price of 6,495 plus GST, where you can access the software only version of the platform, as a private company, and be, utilize not only the venture data sort of integration, but also be able to utilize the software for your own capital raising processes, for your own intelligent deal rooms, your own engagement, etc., but also for your own investor attraction as part of it. And then also for companies that are, currently raising or going to be raising in the next sort of 3 months or so, for even 6 months, we're actually hosting our largest conference of the year, which is Emergence. We've crossed over 850 registrations for that. It's actually, I said, it's going incredibly well from a build-up perspective. So for companies that are basically, I said that combination of be able to utilize our software, but also present at an in-person activity can be quite appealing for a company that's going through a capital raise. And then, from our own company standpoint, what we will be doing is also having an investment opportunity in the sense that we'll be doing our own capital raise to allow, this has been the milestone that we've been working towards for the last 12 months. And we knew as soon as we were going to achieve this milestone, we're going to launch a capital raise post that, because now for us, it's about the execution of the global opportunity for companies that we'll work with in the future. And then also the investors that we will the investor product that we will create going forward as well. So everything we do over the next 12 months is basically going to be about showing the world what we've built globally, and then inviting the global investor ecosystem actually into the platform, which is obviously what we've been doing with our Emergence Global Conference as well, and also what we do with our in-person activities too. So following this, I'm going to send out an email which will cover those 3 different things. So anyone on the session or watching it after who's interested in those 3 different elements, will give you the opportunity to engage with us, whether it be for your company that you're raising capital for, or if you're looking as an investor to potentially invest into us, we'll provide that as an opportunity and go through the details of that. And then last one is that if you have anyone that's sort of involved in this space, is now, as I said, in crossing that unique milestone for us, we want to be basically proactively building the business, not just as an Australian opportunity, but as a global opportunity. So we've got opportunities for account executives in Australia as actually part of that. So, that's basically for us from a coverage standpoint. As I mentioned, the next thing coming up is our Emergence Conference. We are going to be, I said, basically what we're trying to do is Emergence is where we actually bring the ecosystem together. We place a spotlight on the ecosystem. We acknowledge all the great work that the ecosystem does. We've got incredible companies that are actually participating, like Peter Mobbs. He's not only in a panel session, he's also presenting his fund. He provides investors the opportunity to invest into his fund and to go alongside him as well. So we've got some incredible presenters that are actually there. We've got the likes of WeConnect as well that are helping businesses scale globally as a sponsor. Presenting companies like Rex Energy, right, who've had a killer year in the last sort of 12 months and crossed some massive milestones. As I said, and also, as I say, the other one, Auticon, which is, backed by Richard Branson, and they basically help place autistic people into specific roles that are suitable with their skill set. Incredible company, incredible people behind it, backed by Richard Branson, actually presenting at the event. So Emergence is an incredible event, 23rd and 24th of March in Sydney, and then 31st of March in London. And then the Global is actually an ongoing thing. So the Emergence Global is where we're actually showcasing anything, I think it's something like 80 different VCs from around the globe that are talking about their investment thesis and what they're focused on from an investment perspective. So that's an incredible opportunity for people as well. And then lastly, these are my details. So if you'd like any more information about sort of what I presented as part of this launch, feel free to just email me here or actually just visit our website. Likewise, feel free to add me on LinkedIn. I'll be sending out an email in approximately about sort of 15 minutes. And said, happy for you to reply to that email. But, for us, I was actually even nervous to actually do this session. Once again, I just, to finish off this, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone that supported us as part of this journey. Our shareholders that have backed us, in through what even been a challenging year last year. Because of the support of shareholders, we were still able to keep on executing on not only the conference software, but on what I've just showed today as well. We crossed some incredible milestones in the last 12 months in, as I said, what was the most challenging year. But that has now set us up for a global opportunity, but most importantly, it sets up our clients also for a global opportunity as well. And I said, everything we think about goes back to those core elements of what I mentioned before. We always try to create an opportunity for tomorrow, and everything we think about is how to empower innovation, capital, and ambition. And now, as I said, those 3 principles that I talked about from a software perspective, the main one is how can we help the ecosystem do what it naturally does? As I said, for people that are already natural, and I said, I know a lot of founders spend a lot of time reaching out to investors that are sort of external of our network. Now we can actually facilitate it through the platform. So to everyone that's joined us for the session, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. I said, I hope you share my enthusiasm for what we've actually built. It said, feel free to send me, any sort of feedback or any additional product suggestions. As I said, like it's rare when it feels awkward to say it, but I absolutely know that what we have now is a world-class solution for a global problem. So thank you again, everyone, for joining me for my launch today. As I said, any other questions that anyone has, please feel free to ask. Happy to stay on the call for a few minutes to go through those questions. And by the way, I'm getting lots of compliments from people saying thank you and excellent presentation. Thanks so much for that feedback. I really like it. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Paul. Much appreciated. So for some of you, you've been through this journey. I know someone like Paul, I said, knows for at least 10 to 10 years plus, right? And, to see the evolution of us as a company, I hope is sort of interesting for some people as well. And it's funny, people sort of come in and out of our ecosystem. And my just hope is that when they come back in, they see how much further we've come, in the process. Someone just said, Josh, you've been following us for 10 years too. Thanks, mate. Appreciate. Thank you, Avinash. Appreciate. So definitely a lot of hard work. And I said, people involved in this space, it's really funny. I get the best feedback at the moment from advisors in this space and also people that are building their own product, right? And I said, so if you build your own product, you can understand the nuanced part to a lot of the different things that we've done. Thanks, Emlyn. I wonder if you saw your profile on there, Emlyn. I did notice that on there. Perfect. All right, let me see if there's any other questions. All right. So I'm going to finish that up now. But once again, thank you everyone again for your time. I really appreciate it. I hope we can be active with you in some way or another, whether it be with your company that's raising, whether it's you as an investor attending our events, whether it's you if you're looking at participating and being a shareholder. I hope we can engage and be active with you in some way. Thank you again. Have a good afternoon.